Started. Okay, so today's topic, we're going to talk about hair care. I know few people had made a request that they wanted to know a little bit more about the Ayurvedic perspective on the hair care. So just going to go right into that. Uh, so when it comes to hair, just like Prakriti, Ayurveda defines hair in a similar manner. It breaks it down in a same type, like a Vata, Pitta, and a Kapha type of hair. So when we're talking about the Vata type of hair, obviously looking at the thin, your curly or straight hair, depending on the combination. Some people may have just a light combination, but overall it's a typical like a Vata Prakriti hair. It's a thin hair. When you're talking about the Pitta hair, you're talking about the straight, soft, very easy to manage hair. And for the Kapha type, you're looking at obviously the thick, wavy, lustrous hair, dark hair. Those are the qualities of the type of hair people with a Kapha Prakriti generally, and even for the hair which has a Kapha Prakriti. Now, what happens when you have your dosha in excess? What happens to your hair? So for the Vata, if it's in excess, typically it will turn into dry, frizzy hair or even scalp. If it's a Pitta, obviously, you're going to have a start early graying, thinning of hair, burning scalp, a lot of scalp issue that's associated with the having a Pitta dosha in excess. And when there is a Kapha, we're looking at the hair being too oily, scalp being too oily, being very thick and heavy. The hair kind of weighs down. So those are the typical types of Kapha type of hair that Ayurveda defines it based on, again, breaking it down by the Prakriti level. Now, what do you do with a healthy hair? So how do you get a healthy hair? So the Ayurvedic perspective is, again, going back to the basic. If you have a good eating habits, if you are not under a lot of stress, if your sleep pattern is regular, if you're sleeping good 8 to 10 hours, at night, depending, again, some Prakriti will have a little bit less sleep, but at least typically getting a good restful sleep. And talking about the environment, when we talk about the environment, it talks about how much chemical do you use for your hair, your use of shampoo, use of curling irons, use of straightening irons, use of gel. So a lot of those products can impact the health of your hair as well. And when we're talking about the food, it's related basically to your salty food or even too much eating sour food that can impact the health of your hair as well. And so the rule of thumb, again, just like with Ayurveda loves using oil, using the hair oil application is the best way to keep your hair healthy. Again, if you cannot do daily hair application, then at least doing once a week, or at least even whatever time you can. If you can't do once a week, then at least even putting a few drops of oil in your hair goes a long way than just not doing anything at all. So these are just some of the measures that anyone can take to have a healthy hair. Now, today I'm just going to talk about a little bit more common hair problems that we all experience and what is Ayurveda's view and what are the herbs that we can use to cure some of those hair problems. These are very basic common hair problems. Again, not going too much into the detail in terms of like what's causing it right now, but the common type of hair problem that Ayurveda breaks it down is saying, okay, you can have either dry frizzy hair, dandruff, scalp disorders that's generally related to the oversecretion of oil in your scalp and then causes psoriasis sometime or dermatitis, burning scalp, hair falling, gray hair. Those are all the common hair problems that Ayurveda actually breaks it down. So if you go to a Ayurvedic practitioner, they would review your hair based on, obviously, like we talked about, your Prakriti, just looking at your Prakriti and say, what type of your hair do you have? Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and then what is the hair problem? And based on that, the remedy is given. So the common herbs that you will see in many of the hair products, including from Ayurveda, is your amla, brahmi, soapnut, that's your arita. Some people call rita, some is arita. Bringraj, indigo powder, sandalwood. We're talking about the white sandalwood powder here. Shikakai, neem, trifla. Those are your common herbs that many of the formulations, Ayurvedic formulations, will have either in the form of oil or even in the powder form. So I'm going to talk today more about it, focusing on how to create some of the herbal hair wash powders at home that can help you cure some of the hair condition that you're experiencing. So to remove the dandruff, these are the choice of herbs that Ayurveda recommends. Your amla, triphala, and these are all in the powder form I'm talking about right now. Amla powder, triphala, yastimadu, that's your licorice powder. Again, I know we had talked about this remedy also in earlier. It is available in a powder form. Neem is also available in a powder form. Bringraj is also available in a powder form. So these are the go-to herbs if you are trying to work with creating a herbal hair wash for treating your dandruff condition. Now, the next one is about your scalp. If you are trying to take care of your scalp in a holistic way and you want to use some of the more, again, home remedies and more uh, herbal ways to do that. So these are the choice of herbs: neem, almond, coconut. Now, hibiscus powder is available, not in the Indian store, obviously, but available on online and internet. In the later, I will talk a little bit more about that too, but it's a good powder. For even creating a lot of herbal remedies as well. You can also use tulsi powder. Couscous is that couscous that we usually use in our Indian sweets, and that is the couscous that we're talking about it. But creating the powder out of that. Tree turmeric or daru haridra, that's the main Ayurvedic herb that many of the formulation has it, even not just for hair, but even in general, a lot of ailments related to cough and cold symptoms. So this is one of the, again, the go-to herb for if you are focusing on treating your scalp. Now, what to do if you have a burning scalp? So what are the herbs that you can focus on when you're dealing with your herbal burning scalp? So amla is your go-to herb. Amla, aloe vera, coconut pulp. Again, brahmi and couscous, you can use those as well. Because it has a cooling effect, and that's usually helps bring down this itchiness or even the irritation that you may experience in the scalp. Now, the irritation can be caused by, even if it's a hair product has caused irritation, hair dye has caused irritation, or could be any other reason that has created that burning sensation. You can use some of these herbs to create the hair pack, and then that will help you with that. Now, when talking about making the hair shiny, how do you make the hair shiny? So these are just a basic, again, same products. Some of them are kind of like does multiple effects, like brahmi and amla. You will see it's a very standard that can be applied in many different conditions. The different one here is, again, almond powder and the coconut powder. Fenugreek, again, we're talking about your methi powder, and that can also help. Now, gray hair. When we're dealing with the gray hair, again, these herbs are not designed to color your gray hair, but it's designed to give your gray hair actually even make it a little lighter in a gray. And eventually, if you regular use of it, will make your hair a little bit on a little darker shade. I mean, the of the black. So, but it's again, the health of the gray hair, okay, because that's usually helps with all this, has a little bit of color in it. And that's usually is designed to treat your gray hair condition. Now, how do we make the herbal hair wash formula? So there are a couple of ways that I have learned, and obviously this is something been done on the research on it. You can make it in a dry powder recipe. So if you're like using just a powder recipe, then this is a simple formula that you can follow. When I'm talking about the 1 teaspoon of base powder, so any herbal formulation, because herbs are in general very heavy, so you need some another agent, like a little frothing agent that kind of help bring out the qualities of the herb out, and also give you that little, creates little suds and gives you that little cleansing feeling. So base powders are generally used for the Ayurvedic formulations, Rita, shikakai, even the green gram flower that has a frothing quality. So it's very popular for use as a herbal hair wash. Methi powder, hibiscus powder, again, if it is easily available, if you can find it. Now, when you're making the herbal hair wash formulation, I'm not talking about using everything in it. Just 1 teaspoon of any of those powder will do. So you can just combine either Rita shikakai or mung flower, Rita, any of the combination doesn't matter. You can take it in a 1 teaspoon. And then you're using 1 to 2 teaspoons of your herb powder based on what you're trying to treat. So if you're trying to work with your burning scalp situation. So you can grind up some of the powder or find already mixed powder right here, amla or even khaskhas or brahmi powder, and then you can use that with as your purpose powder, and then you mix it with one of your base powder, and then you add a little bit of water, and then just create a little paste, and then you just apply on your scalp. You can gently massage it, and then just leave it on for 5 to 10 minutes. And if you wash it off with water, it'll help relieve the condition that you're trying to treat. So this is basically a dry powder, again, recipe for creating your own homemade herbal hair wash powder. So if you are dealing with, again, gray hair, and if you want to just soften up your gray hairs, do the same thing. Take 1 teaspoon of the base powders and then use some of this herbs combination. And then you can just mix it up together and create your own recipe. Now, if you don't want to do any of those treatment, if you want to just use as a herbal shampoo, just a basic cleanser that you're looking for, any of this base powder will work as just a basic cleanser. So you can actually combine any one of those by itself. I generally use the Rita, Shikaka, and Amla if I want to use just as my once a week shampoo. You can use that. So it helps get rid of a lot of the residue gets built up using the shampoo or any of the hair products. Some of those leaves on your scalp, and that helps get rid of all those residue from your scalp. So that's the good, just a basic general cleanser you can use. If you're looking for something more specific to your condition, obviously add 1 to 2 teaspoons of your herb powders. And then again, this is just a standard ratio is about 1 to half and half, 50-50. Generally, that is what we're looking at it. But again, depends on the length of your hair, depending on the condition of your hair, what you're trying to treat. And if you are into getting a little bit more, adventurous, and you don't want to do herb, and you have a lot of time on your hand, and you think I want to do more potent, then this is a more potent recipe. You can actually infuse the herbal tea. So the way to do it is you actually boil 1 tablespoon of herbs. So you're going to mix all those herbs together with the 2 cups of water, and you reduce it to 1 cup. So that makes a very potent formula. And again, let it let it cool down. And then you can gently massage it on your scalp and leave the mixture for about 5 to 10 minutes. And when you wash it off with the water, so that's also does the exact same job as the dry powder. It's just a matter of preference and matter of time what you're doing. If you are working with psoriasis or dermatitis, I would probably recommend to go with this infusion recipe, because just being a little bit more potent, being more effective. And you can use this once a week. Again, depending on what's the status of your scalp is and what condition you're trying to treat. But generally once a week, you can do it as a maintenance. You can do it more often as well, but 2 to 3 times if you are able to do it. And just leave it for 5 to 10 minutes and wash it off with water. And that pretty much takes care of a lot of those remedies. Now, whenever you're using any of this herbal, whether it's in a powder form or whether it is in the infusion form, so whenever you're using that remedy, just to be sure, you have to make sure that you have your at least oil. You don't have to oil it, but if you have applied oil, at least do it 30 minutes before that. So don't put an oil on and then try to wash it off right after, because it will take a lot for those powders to work, and you probably have to use a lot more. And it just won't be as effective. So having the oil, if you're going to apply oil to your hair, put it 30 minutes prior to that, and then use any of these remedies to wash your hair. And again, it can cause a lot of dryness if you don't put any water into your powder. Some, like people with a kapha hair, can get away with just using a dry powder and use it as a shampoo and not mix it with any water. But if you are dealing with the vata type of hair, then you want to make sure that you have some water in it. You can always add few drops of olive oil or even coconut oil. Any kind of oil can be added as well to make that powder a little bit more effective. Now, I'm just going to talk about a little bit more about the hair fall. I know there is a lot of concerns usually about the hair fall. So the hair fall in Ayurveda, when they look at it, it says there are a lot of underlying conditions that could be the cause of hair fall. So Ayurvedically speaking, when we talk about hair fall, we're looking at basically the underlying cause. So it could be either your Manda Agni. So when we're talking about the Manda Agni, again, it goes back to your digestion. How strong your digestion is, how well you're digesting food, how well you're assimilating, and how well you are able to get rid of the toxins out of your body. So that kind of all goes, that's your basic foundational health. If you have your digestion, you will have less likely any of the other issues. And hormonal changes, teenagers going through hormonal changes, women going through hormonal changes will affect the health of your hair, obviously. Scalp conditions, again, related to stress, if you have nutrient deficiency. Generally, we're looking at the calcium and iron deficiencies when we're talking about the nutrient deficiency. Because the Ayurveda views hair as a byproduct of bone. So if you think of, if you have a healthy bone, you're going to have a healthy hair. So it's kind of like that logical thing you have to think about it. So if you want to treat your hair and if keep your hair healthy, you got to make sure that your bones are healthy as well, because it is a byproduct that's going to show up on your hair. I know we had talked many sessions ago about the Abhyanga. So bone health definitely has a lot to do with what food you're eating and how well you're taking care of yourself. But Abhyanga, we had talked about the self-oil massage is definitely very helpful in keeping your bone healthy and strong and lubricated, basically. So if your bones are strong and lubricated and joints are lubricated, you're less likely to have a condition with the hair. But sometime again, if there is any underlying causes that can be creating some situation for your hair, then the best thing is to rule out. Many times there is a hypothyroidism or even hyperthyroidism is on a picture when we're dealing with hair fall. So you have to first find out what is it causing the hair fall. So for hair fall, it's not very straightforward as you would be treating dandruff or even your burning scalp, because there's a little bit more underlying situation one has to kind of tackle and make sure that you're dealing with that first before you can go into that. If you have ruled out that you don't have any hormonal issues, you don't have any hypothyroidism, it's just simply stress related, then obviously take care of the stress, do a lot of exercise, yoga, meditation, whatever it is that just kind of help your body de-stress, because that is impacting your hair as well. And then if you don't have a stress and if you still have just hair fall, then maybe I think the other non popular things to look at is maybe how much chemical are you putting on your hair. So that could be the reason also. So there are a lot of various reasons that can cause hair fall. But like I said, for Ayurvedically, if you were to assess the situation, you're basically ruling out the underlying cause, which could be any of those related. So once you rule that out, obviously there are wonderful herb formulations available even for people with thyroid and hypo or even hyper. And that does help actually with the hair fall and even to treat. So the way Ayurveda looks at it, if you are dealing with a hair fall and if you are having any of this condition, there are two things you have to do. You have to first take care of the causative factor. And the second thing is also there are a lot of topical or even internal herbs that you can take while you're working through your system to get those get into the root cause of those problems. You can also use some of these oral applications and even the oil application you can use to keep your hair healthy. General remedy for hair fall is obviously oil application. There are a lot of different oils that are out available on the store. Amla, Brahmi, a lot of oil choices you have. So the regular use of oil application will actually prevent the hair fall. That is general logic is behind any of this Ayurvedic treatment. But there are some of the oral herb formulations you can take as well. Now, these formulations, I'm not talking about taking it ashwagandha and bhringraj or brahmi orally. These are just more for using it as a hair product. So Chyawanprash is the exception. So Chyawanprash, even though Ayurvedically speaking, it's designed more for your respiratory illness, but it's an overall rejuvenator. So what it means is like overall you need some rejuvenation internally, then Chyawanprash is a good daily rejuvenator that you can take. So not only is going to help you with your cough and cold issues, but it's overall is going to keep you healthy, boost your immunity. So taking this Chyawanprash obviously daily, it helps keep you healthy. And when you're healthy, obviously you're going to have your healthy bone and healthy tissues. And in return, you're going to have your hair healthy as well. So that is basically the logic behind it. Amla is again used, you can use it as an infusion or you can use it in herbal powder as well. Ashwagandha, taking it orally, I know lately there's a lot of buzz about the ashwagandha and people use it for many different purposes. But in Ayurveda, it's considered as a very heating herb. So you kind of have to be careful. Don't just kind of, start taking the herb. You kind of have to understand what situation you're trying to cure. If you're using as a topical hair application, ashwagandha, that's fine. You can obviously make your dry powder, or even if you're doing this infusion, and if you're working with just hair fall and you don't have any underlying condition that you know of, and if you want to experiment with ashwagandha, definitely you can do that. You can use that and apply on your hair, and it is known to be as a rejuvenator as well. So it actually helps with the hair growth. Um, and it's just a lot of other things it helps. It de-stresses you. And then if you're not, and again, when you use ashwagandha, you have to make sure that you don't have any burning scalp, you don't have any itchy scalp, because it is very heating. So you don't want to multiply your problems. So you kind of want to take a little cautious when you're using that. Bringraj and Brahmi, obviously they're very safe to use. You can use these powders in a powder form, in infusion form. Brahmi can be obviously taken as just a supplement as well if you're working with your hair, or even for de-stress yourself. So those are just a very basic, safe herb to take. Other than, like I said, ashwagandha. Bringraj is not for oral. It's more for basically using it as in your hair application. So just to summarize, these are basically, again, going back to the basic. When you are dealing with any of the hair issues, you want to make sure you are keeping an eye on your digestion. You are not eating too much overly salty and sour food, because that does impact your hair. Just having your physical body in good shape, de-stressing yourself, having good sleep, those are basically just a regular healthy way of doing it. And again, if you have taken all those, or sometime we have slipped and we have actually accumulated some ama and toxin in our body, and now obviously we have to take care of it. So there are some remedies available. Again, this is just focusing on mainly what's available, easily available at your in your local store, or even at home. If you are going more into the deeper, like if you're seeking more heavy formulations, yes, there are a lot of online shops available that can give you a lot of different remedies for any of those conditions. So that's pretty much it for my today's presentation, and I hope you found this very helpful. And I'm just going to start taking any questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and ask me, and we can